During my time in the cancer ward, my 14-year-old daughter, Chloe, never came to visit me. It wasn't until the day I drew my last breath that she finally stood by my hospital bed. She looked at me, crying bitterly, and said, "I hate you. You never paid a single dime for me growing up. You just traveled the world, living your glamorous life, leaving me with nothing." I was completely confused. I had been wiring thousands of dollars into her bank account every single month. But my throat was dry, and I could no longer make a sound. After Chloe left the room, my husband, Ethan Vance, walked in, wrapping his arm around his mistress, Rachel Cole. He looked down at me and scoffed. "Summer, you thought you were so smart, didn't you? Once you're dead, everything you built belongs to me." A tear slipped from the corner of my eye. I was the sales director of a multinational pharmaceutical company, constantly traveling internationally for work. I never imagined that the millions I practically killed myself to earn were being spent by my husband on his mistress. And I, because of the relentless bone-breaking work, had run my body into the ground with cancer. I died in pure, suffocating hatred. But when I opened my eyes again, I was reborn. The very first thing I did after waking up in my past body was secretly freeze all my credit cards and start transferring my assets. That night, Ethan called me, his voice dripping with impatience. "Summer, why hasn't your transfer cleared yet? Chloe's high school registration fees are due." I smiled faintly. I already paid the school directly. Ethan froze on the other end of the line. The bank card I had set up for Chloe had always been kept in Ethan's possession. "She's too young," he had told me in my past life. "We shouldn't let her manage that much money directly." In my past life, I had naturally agreed. I was even deeply grateful to Ethan for supporting my career and staying at home to look after our daughter. Out of guilt for my constant absence, I always sent extra money, trying to compensate for not being there for them. It wasn't until I was hospitalized with cancer, staring at the empty white walls, that the truth began to unravel. When the nurse called Chloe on my behalf, Ethan picked up. He said, "She has exams. Don't bother her." But after my death, I saw the truth. Chloe didn't have any exams that day. Instead, she had received a Snapchat from Rachel. "Just so you know, your mother never really loved you. She hasn't sent a dime for you. There's no point in going to see her." Chloe had stared at that message for a long time before putting her phone face down on the desk, tears dripping onto the wood. She had whispered, she never wanted to see me anyway. At that moment, I realized death wasn't the most painful part. The most painful part was watching the child I loved with all my heart being brainwashed into believing I abandoned her. In my past life, Chloe was a math prodigy. She loved competing in academic competitions. Ethan had told me he paid her registration fees for the regional math Olympiad. But in reality, Chloe's registration was canceled by the system because the payment was overdue. She had sat alone in the empty classroom, crying the entire afternoon. The $12,000 I sent that month had been split into 3 neat transactions. $4,000 went straight to Rachel's account. $4,000 went to pay the premium on his secret illegitimate son's life insurance. The remaining $4,000 went into a fake consulting contract labeled Child Mindset Coaching, run by Rachel's agency. Without a second thought, I canceled all recurring transfers and dialed my private banker. "I need to close a custodial account immediately." The manager paused. "Mrs. Vance, that account is a minor's custodial account under your daughter's name. Your husband, Ethan, has been managing it. Closing it requires verifying your guardianship and transferring the remaining balance to a restricted account of your choice. I have all the paperwork ready." My voice was dead calm. "Unlink all quick pay options, family sharing, and third-party automatic deductions. Once the old card is voided, the new restricted account must only be linked to my personal phone number." The manager heard the ice in my voice and didn't ask further. Identity verification, guardianship papers, facial recognition, and fund transfer. The whole process was done in minutes. Soon, a prompt popped up on my screen. Account ending in 1027 successfully closed. Remaining balance, $12.80. I let out a cold laugh. Out of nearly $500,000 sent over the years, only $12.80 were left. All these years, I thought sending money was sending love. As it turned out, my love was hijacked halfway, repackaged, and used as a weapon to stab my own daughter. After sorting out the bank details, I called my lawyer, Amanda Carter. She had been my trusted legal advisor for years. "Amanda, I need to set up an educational trust fund for Chloe." "How fast?" "Today." I heard the sound of her rustling through files. "Any restrictions?" "Tuition, school lunches, uniforms, glasses, medical bills, academic competitions, and tutoring. Any large expense must be paid directly to the providers upon official invoice verification. No cash withdrawals, and absolutely no transfers to her father." Amanda was silent for a few seconds. "Summer, did something happen?" "Yes." I looked out the window at the glowing Boston skyline. "Someone is using my daughter's name to raise another woman's child." I booked the earliest Amtrak train back to Boston. Before boarding, Ethan called again. His tone was much gentler this time. Summer, I'm sorry about my tone earlier. Chloe's tutoring center was pressing for payment, and I got stressed. Don't take it to heart. In my past life, every time he used Chloe as a shield, I backed down. He knew my weak spot all too well. An absent mother is always terrified of her child feeling neglected. I pulled my suitcase toward the platform. Which tutoring center? He hesitated. The logic and mindset counseling class we talked about. What is the official name of the business? Why are you digging into the details all of a sudden? I've always handled these small things. If it's a small thing, finding the invoice should be easy. The breathing on the other end of the line grew shallow. Summer, did someone tell you something? Looking at the train door, I replied calmly, I'm coming back. His voice changed completely. You're coming back to Boston? Why didn't you tell me? I could have picked you up. No need. I stepped onto the train. I'm going straight to Chloe's school. The line went completely dead. A few seconds later, he let out a tight, nervous laugh. She's in the middle of class right now. If you just show up out of nowhere, you'll only distract her. I'm her mother. Of course you are, he said, softening his voice. But you've been away for so long. She's closer to me. If you just show up unannounced, she might not feel comfortable. In my past life, hearing those words would have broken my heart, and I would have stepped back. But now I only found it pathetic. Liars love to package the distance they created as a boundary the victim must respect. I'll see how comfortable she is when I get there. I hung up. As the train pulled out of the station, Amanda sent me a text. The educational trust is active. First $30,000 deposited. Direct pay authorization forms for the school are attached. I replied, great. Help me pull the last 5 years of bank statements from the closed account. Pay close attention to transfers to Aura Youth Consulting, Rachel Cole's personal account, insurance companies and real estate escrows. She replied instantly, you have a specific suspect? I typed 3 words. Rachel Cole. My fingers tensed as I hit send. That name had been a thorn between Chloe and me for years. She was a former counselor at a youth development center. Sweet, patient, always kneeling to speak to kids at their eye level. During Chloe's most rebellious teenage years, Rachel was the only one who could get her to talk. In my past life, I had actually been grateful to her. I had sent her Christmas gifts, begging her to keep Chloe company. How utterly absurd. She was living in a condo paid for by my daughter's trust fund, buying life insurance for her own son with my daughter's money, and then turning around to buy my daughter a cheap $3 cupcake to say, I might not be as rich as your mom, sweetie, but I actually care about you. When the train arrived, I didn't go home. The Uber driver asked, where to, ma'am? Westside High School. When the car pulled up to the school gates, it was just in time for the lunch break. Through the window, I spotted Chloe immediately. She was standing by the cafeteria entrance, thin as a twig. Her school hoodie was slightly worn out and too short for her, and her jeans didn't quite cover her ankles. Her glasses were crooked, held together on one side by a thick layer of clear tape. The cafeteria lady frowned. Chloe, your lunch account is overdrawn again. I'll let you slide today, but your parents need to pay this tomorrow. Chloe kept her head down, her ears turning bright red. She whispered, I'll let them know. Sitting in the car, my fingernails dug deep into my palms. The money I sent every month should have bought her the best meals, the most comfortable glasses, and perfect-fitting clothes. Yet my daughter was being humiliated over a $5 lunch. I pushed the door open and got out. Chloe. She turned around. The 14-year-old Chloe looked at me with defensive eyes, not joy. What are you doing here? I wanted to hug her, but she took half a step back. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'm here to pay off your lunch balance. She frowned, as if hearing a cruel joke. No need. Dad will do it. The cafeteria lady looked at us. Are you Chloe's mom? This is the 3rd time her account has gone into the negative this semester. Her dad always says he'll pay in a few days. I pulled out my phone. I'm paying now. The transaction went through. I cleared the balance and loaded $1,000 onto her account. Chloe stared at the screen, a flicker of emotion in her eyes before they went cold again. Are you doing this because you fought with Dad? I didn't rush to explain. When did your glasses break? She touched the taped frame. A while ago. It's fine. If it's fine, why are you squinting? She looked away. Not like you'd care. Of course I didn't know. In my past life, Ethan told me Chloe was doing great, just going through a moody teenage phase and didn't want to FaceTime me. He told me girls have secrets and that I shouldn't try to solve everything with money. And I believed him. I met with her guidance counselor, Mrs. Collins. Mrs. Collins looked surprised to see me. Mrs. Vance. What brings you here? Ethan always told us you were out of state for work and shouldn't be disturbed with school matters. From now on, please send all fee notices and school communications directly to me as well. Mrs. Collins hesitated, then clicked on her computer. Let me show you her outstanding balances and academic records first. The screen displayed a list of red flags. Overdrawn lunch account. Unpaid school uniform fees. Ignored vision checkup notices. Missed registration fee for the regional math Olympiad. Cancelled by system. My chest tightened. How much was the math competition fee? $50. Mrs. Collins sighed. Chloe is extremely gifted in math. Her teachers were certain she'd make the state finals. We called Ethan multiple times, but he said you felt the competition was unnecessary stress for a young girl. I looked at Chloe. She was standing by the office door, her face pale. Do you have a record of him saying that? I asked. Mrs. Collins pulled up a screenshot from the school communication app. Next to Ethan's profile picture it read, her mother doesn't want to pay for it. She says there's no point in girls doing advanced math. Skip the registration. I closed my eyes. Chloe's voice trembled. Isn't that true? She looked at me, tears welling up. Dad told me you said I shouldn't go. Rachel said you work so hard to make money, and I shouldn't burden you with extra competitions. Sensing the tension, Mrs. Collins quietly slipped out of the room to grab some water. I walked over to Chloe and knelt, so we were at eye level. No, baby. That is not true. Her eyes were red, but she forced herself not to cry. But you never told me. Because I didn't know. She let out a bitter laugh, far too sharp for a 14-year-old. There are a lot of things you don't know. I nodded. Yes. You're right. I missed too much. I didn't try to make excuses. A late explanation to a hurt child is like an expired prescription. Instead, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, showing her the transfer history of the past few years. This is from last month. $12,000. This was the month of your math competition. $15,000. This one was for your glasses. I wrote Chloe's eye doctor and glasses in the memo. This was for your school clothes and summer camp. $5,000. Chloe froze. She stared at the long list of transactions, all clearly labeled with her name. Chloe's lunch. Chloe's uniform. Chloe's math competition. Chloe's birthday. Chloe's education fund. Her lips trembled. Then where did the money go? I looked at her gently. That's why I'm back. Let's go find out where it went together. The certified bank statements were ready by 3 p.m. The private banker looked uneasy as he slid the documents toward me. Mrs. Vance, over the last 5 years, this closed account received a total of $480,000. The remaining balance at the time of closure was $12.80. Here are the transfer logs and the closure receipt. Chloe sat beside me, clutching her backpack straps. It was likely the first time she realized she wasn't from a struggling family. She was supposed to have plenty of money. It just never reached her. I scrolled down the statements. The first red flag was a transfer of $3,500 to Aura Youth Consulting. Memo: Child Emotional Wellness Coaching. On that exact day, the school's automatic debit for Chloe's uniform had bounced. The second transfer, $4,500 to Rachel Cole's personal account. Memo: Consultation fee. The third, $4,000 to an insurance company. Insured party, Leo Cole. Chloe looked up. Who is Leo Cole? I didn't answer. The banker whispered, we'd need a legal request to pull the full policy details, but according to the billing info, the primary guardian listed is Rachel Cole. Chloe's face drained of color. She wasn't stupid. She just had never been shown the truth. Further down the list, there were charges for children's photography, imported organic formula, theme parks, and toddler playgroups, all located in the south end of the city, the same neighborhood where Rachel lived. Chloe suddenly asked, what about my birthday gifts? My heart clenched. Which year, sweetie? My 13th birthday. Dad said you were too busy to pick a gift and only sent a $50 gift card. Rachel gave me a hair clip. I scrolled to that month. I had transferred $8,000 to the account. Memo: Chloe's birthday gift and winter camp. On that day, $7,800 was transferred to Rachel's account. And there was a charge of $45 at a local boutique. Chloe stared at the $45 charge, her tears finally spilling over. The hair clip, was it that? I remained silent. She wept silently. The bank manager sealed the documents. Mrs. Vance, if these unauthorized transfers harmed a minor's welfare, I highly recommend consulting your attorney. We can provide certified copies for court. I will. Once we left the bank, Ethan called me dozens of times. I didn't pick up. He started texting. Where did you take Chloe? She has class this afternoon. Don't do anything crazy. Summer, I know your job is stressful, but don't take your issues out on our daughter. Finally, he posted in the family WhatsApp group. Summer came back out of nowhere and closed Chloe's account. Now I can't even pay for her lunch or tutoring. I've sacrificed my career to raise our child alone for years, and this is how she treats me. No trust at all. The group chat exploded. His sister texted, Summer, it's not easy for a man to stay home and raise a kid. His aunt added, Just because you make the money doesn't mean you can bully him. His mother chimed in. Ethan raised Chloe. Don't you dare come back and try to snatch her away. In my past life, this gang-up would have terrified me. I would have backed down to keep the peace. This time, I took photos of the receipts and sent them directly to the group chat. Image 1. Chloe's school lunch balance cleared $1,000 preloaded. Image 2. New school uniforms paid in full. Image 3. Eye doctor appointment and prescription glasses booked. Image 4. Late registration request for the Math Olympiad submitted. Image 5. Chloe's educational trust fund active. Direct school and medical payments set up. Then, I sent one final message. I didn't cut off my daughter's life. I cut off the thieves who were stealing from her. The chat went dead silent. Ethan's private message popped up immediately. Summer Vance, what the hell are you trying to do? I looked at Chloe, who sat quietly beside me. I'm auditing the books. He replied instantly. We're married. Is it really necessary to count pennies like this? I smiled. You certainly counted every penny when you were stealing from our daughter. Before heading to the marital home, I took Chloe to an optical center on Newberry Street. The optometrist, a gentle woman in her 50s, shook her head as she examined Chloe's taped glasses under the lensometer. These prescriptions are 3 years out of date, the optometrist said softly, looking at me with unspoken concern. Her astigmatism has worsened by nearly 2 diopters. She must have been suffering from severe eye strain and daily headaches. Chloe sat in the exam chair, her fingers nervously picking at the fraying hem of her hoodie. Did your head hurt when you studied? I asked, kneeling beside the chair. Chloe looked at the floor. Only when I did math past 8 at night. Dad told me it was because I stared at screens too much. He said new glasses cost $400, and since you were struggling with work stress, I shouldn't bother you over small things. $400. In the bank statements, on the very week Chloe complained of headaches 2 years ago, Ethan had spent $420 at a luxury day spa and back bay, booked under Rachel Cole's name. Pick whatever frames you like, Chloe, I said, my voice steady. Get 2 pairs. One for school, one for backup. Mom, the titanium ones are expensive. Nothing you need is too expensive, I told her, looking straight into her eyes. Never think you are a burden on this family. You are the only reason I worked so hard. She bit her lip, selected a lightweight pair of rose gold frames, and for the first time in years, a faint, genuine smile flickered across her face. Next, we went to a department store. I bought her 4 sets of high-quality winter clothes, properly fitted boots, a warm down coat, and a sturdy leather backpack. As we walked out of the store, Chloe carried her new bags, repeatedly looking down at her new warm coat as if terrified it would vanish if she blinked. Mom, she whispered as we got into the Uber. Are we going home now? We are going to the house to pack your things, I replied. You and I are staying at the Colonnade Hotel tonight. Tomorrow Amanda will help us move into the brownstone near the Boston Public Garden. What about Dad? Your dad, I said calmly looking out the window, is about to learn what his life actually costs without me. When the Uber pulled up to our 2-story colonial house in Brookline, Ethan's silver Audi was parked in the driveway. Beside it sat a white Mini Cooper with a personalized license plate, Rachel C. In my past life, whenever I came home from international business trips, Rachel would always coincidentally be at the house. Ethan had always explained that Rachel was helping with Chloe's emotional counseling and cooking a warm meal, so Ethan wouldn't be overwhelmed. I had even brought Rachel luxury silk scarves from Paris to thank her. I unlocked the front door with my biometric key. The living room smelled of roasted garlic and expensive French vanilla candles. On the sofa sat a woman wearing a beige cashmere sweater, my beige cashmere sweater, which I had left in the master bedroom closet before my last trip to Zurich. Rachel Cole sat there, sipping tea from my bone china cups while a 4-year-old boy played with wooden train tracks on the Persian rug. Ethan was standing in the open kitchen, holding a bottle of wine. When the front door opened and I walked in with Chloe and my attorney Amanda Carter, the laughter in the living room died instantly. Ethan's face went rigid. Summer? Why didn't you knock? In my own house? I scoffed, letting my gaze drift from his face to the woman on the couch. A house where my name is the sole title holder on the deed, purchased with my premarital corporate bonus. Rachel immediately stood up, her face adopting that familiar, practiced look of gentle innocence. Summer, you're back, Rachel said softly, taking half a step toward me with her hands clasped. Ethan was so worried about you. You shouldn't be angry with him. He only managed the accounts because he didn't want you to stress over household bills while traveling. She looked down at Chloe with an affectionate smile. Chloe, sweetie, come here. Auntie Rachel baked your favorite blueberry muffins. Chloe didn't move. She stood beside me, wearing her new warm coat, staring at the cashmere sweater on Rachel's shoulders. That sweater, Chloe said, her voice trembling slightly. My mom bought that in Milan. She wore it in our family photo when I was 9. Rachel's smile stiffened. Oh, sweetie, Ethan just lent it to me because the heat was low. Take it off, I said. The room fell dead silent. Ethan slammed the wine bottle onto the granite island. Summer. That is enough. Rachel has been helping me take care of this house while you were gallivanting around Europe. Is this how you treat our guest? A guest who wears my clothes, lives on my daughter's stolen lunch money, and brings her illegitimate child into my living room. Rachel gasped, clutching the toddler's shoulder. Summer. How can you say something so cruel in front of a child? Leo is just a little boy. Then Leo's father should pay for his life insurance with his own money. I replied, pulling a certified folder from Amanda's briefcase and dropping it onto the coffee table with a loud thud. Not with the minor custodial account set up for Chloe Vance. Ethan looked at the bank statement headers and turned bone white. You pulled the archived transaction logs? Ethan stammered, his arrogance fracturing into sheer panic. Every single dollar. Amanda Carter spoke up, stepping forward in her sharp, tailored suit, presenting her bar card and a court notice. Mr. Vance says the fiduciary custodian of a minor's designated account, diverting $480,000 toward third-party personal expenses unauthorized. Corporate entities like Aura Youth Consulting and non-beneficiary insurance. Policies constitutes felony grand larceny, breach of fiduciary duty, and criminal custodial fraud under Massachusetts general laws. Ethan swallowed hard, his throat clicking. Summer, let's talk about this privately. We're husband and wife. This is marital property. The custodial account was funded entirely by post-tax wire transfers from my corporate payroll. I cut him off, my voice cold as an Arctic draft. Under the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, once deposited, those funds became Chloe's irrevocable personal property. You were merely an authorized signatory. You had zero legal right to spend a dime of it on your mistress. Rachel's eyes filled with tears of pure manipulation. She turned to Chloe, her voice pitched to sound wounded and fragile. Chloe, you know me. I've been like a second mother to you. When your mom was never home, who listened to your problems, who bought you hair clips, who sat with you when you were crying. Chloe stepped forward. In my past life, this was the exact emotional trap that had kept Chloe silent and obedient. This time, Chloe looked at Rachel without a shred of warmth. You bought me a $45 hair clip using my $8,000 birthday money, Chloe said, her voice clear and piercing. You told me my mom didn't care about my math competition, while you took $4,000 that exact week to pay for your son's private preschool. You didn't listen to me because you cared. You listened to me to make sure I never figured out you were robbing me. Rachel took a step back, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Now, I said, looking at Ethan and Rachel, you have 20 minutes to pack your personal items and leave. The locksmith is downstairs, and the local police precinct has already been notified of an active trespass notice. Summer. Ethan yelled, his face turning an ugly shade of plum. You can't throw me out. I am your husband. I have rights to this house. The deed is in my sole name, purchased 2 years before our marriage, I said, pointing to the open door. Your name isn't on the title, the utility bills, or the mortgage. You have no legal tenancy here. Get out. 2 uniformed Brookline police officers stepped through the front door there, hands resting formally on their utility belts. Mr. Ethan Vance? The lead officer asked. We have received a formal complaint for domestic financial exploitation and an emergency property trespass petition. Please collect your immediate belongings and vacate the premises. Ethan looked at the police, then at the certified bank audit on the table, and finally at Chloe, who had turned her back on him completely. Realizing the game was up, Rachel quickly scooped up her son and her purse, practically running out the front door without looking Ethan in the eye. Ethan stood alone in the hallway, his hands shaking, his voice dropping to a desperate whimper. Summer, please. Think about our family. What will people say? They will say, I whispered, looking straight into his hollow eyes, that a thief finally got caught. That evening, Amanda and I set up our command center in the conference room of the Colonnade Hotel, while Chloe sat in the adjoining suite, happily doing advanced calculus problems. Under the warm glow of a desk lamp, Amanda spread dozens of corporate registration documents across the long table. Aura Youth Consulting is a complete sham, Amanda said, pointing to the state registry filing. It's registered as a sole proprietorship under Rachel Cole's name, operating out of a residential apartment in Dorchester. There are no licensed child psychologists on staff, no educational accreditations, and 0 client files. It's a money laundering conduit, I said, reviewing the invoices. Ethan transferred $4,000 every month under the label Child Mindset Coaching, and Rachel immediately withdrew the cash or transferred it to her personal brokerage account. Worse than that, Amanda continued, pulling out an IRS filing summary, because Rachel reported those payments as consulting fees while writing off 90% of her living expenses as business deductions. They have committed systematic state and federal tax fraud. I have already drafted a formal whistleblower referral for the Massachusetts Department of Revenue and the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. What about Ethan's family assets? His personal accounts have less than $3,000, Amanda replied. He assumed he would live off your corporate salary forever. When we file the emergency divorce petition tomorrow, we will freeze all his credit lines and request an immediate court order for full asset clawback against Rachel Cole. My phone chimed. It was an email from the Regional Committee of the American Mathematics Olympiad. Dear Mrs. Vance, following your emergency administrative review and the verification of administrative negligence by the school's previous contact, Miss Chloe Vance's registration for the State Invitational Math Olympiad has been successfully reinstated. The examination will take place this Saturday at MIT's Data Center. I walked into the bedroom. Chloe looked up from her notebook, her new rose gold glasses reflecting the soft lamplight. Mom, your registration is reinstated, Chloe. I smiled, sitting on the edge of the bed. Saturday morning. me.It. Chloe's eyes widened, then filled with tears, not of grief, but of pure, unadulterated relief. She threw her arms around my neck, burying her face into my shoulder. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. I held her tightly, stroking her hair, feeling the steady warmth of her breath against my collarbone. In my past life, I had died alone in a cold hospital bed, listening to my daughter's bitter tears through a haze of morphine. In this life, I would stand by her side, watch her conquer the world, and tear down every monster that dared to stand in her way. The next morning, the legal storm broke over Boston. Amanda filed the formal petition for divorce at the Norfolk County Probate and Family Court, accompanied by an emergency ex parte motion for sole legal and physical custody of Chloe, an immediate asset freezing injunction, and a civil complaint for grand theft and fraudulent conversion against Ethan Vance and Rachel Cole. At the same time, the family WhatsApp group, which had been silent for 12 hours, suddenly exploded. Ethan's mother, Brenda Vance, posted a frantic paragraph. Summer. Ethan is staying in a cheap motel. How could you lock your own husband out of his home? We are family. If you have problems, we solve them behind closed doors. You are humiliating the entire Vance family. His sister added. Summer, you can't just accuse people of theft. Rachel was only trying to help. You're being paranoid and vindictive. I didn't argue. I didn't engage. I simply uploaded a PDF containing the first 20 pages of the forensic audit report, specifically highlighting 1. $48,000 paid to Rachel Cole's personal accounts over 12 months. 2. $18,000 paid for Leo Cole's private preschool tuition. 3. The paternity acknowledgement document we had obtained from the Dorchester municipal records, listing Ethan Vance as the biological father of Leo Cole. Below the PDF, I posted a single message. Every member of this chat who received gifts or loans from Ethan over the last 3 years will receive a formal subpoena from my legal team to account for stolen minor custodial funds. Have your bank records ready. Within 30 seconds, Brenda Vance left the group. His sister left the group. His aunt left the group. The chat was completely deserted. When parasites realize the host has turned into a predator, they don't fight, they run. Saturday arrived with a bright, crisp autumn sun. The plaza outside MIT's Data Center was bustling with over 200 elite high school math competitors from across the state, accompanied by proud parents, holding thermal coffee mugs and study binders. Chloe wore her new navy sweater, her hair neatly tied back, holding her pencils and a graphing calculator. Nervous? I asked, handing her a warm cup of hot chocolate. A little, she admitted, smiling through her new glasses. But mostly, I'm just excited. I've been practicing these problem sets for 6 months in secret. Go show them what you can do, sweetie. Win or lose, I am proud of you. Chloe nodded, turned around, and walked confidently through the glass doors of the testing hall. I stood on the plaza steps, watching her figure disappear into the auditorium. Summer. A harsh, desperate voice called out from the edge of the sidewalk. I turned around. Ethan stood near the bike racks. He looked terrible. His hair was greasy, his designer coat was wrinkled, and dark circles bruised the skin beneath his bloodshot eyes. Ethan, I said calmly, stepping down the stairs. You are violating the temporary restraining order by approaching within 100 yards of Chloe's academic venue. I don't care. Ethan hissed, rushing forward, his hands trembling with rage. You froze my accounts. The bank blocked my debit card. My landlord in Dorchester threw my bags on the curb because the deposit check bounced. That sounds like a personal financial problem for an unemployed grown man. I replied smoothly. Summer, please. He dropped his voice, trying to sound pathetic, attempting to reach for my arm. We were together for 15 years. I made a mistake. Rachel seduced me. She manipulated me. I only wanted a son because you were always traveling. If you drop the charges, I'll never see Rachel again. We can raise Chloe together. I looked at him. This man I had loved for 15 years, the man for whom I had ruined my health, worked 70-hour weeks, and sacrificed my youth. In his eyes, there was no remorse. No love for Chloe. Only the frantic, feral terror of a parasite that had been ripped off its host. You didn't make a mistake, Ethan, I said, my voice quiet, carrying the cold finality of a gavel striking wood. You made a calculation. You calculated that I was too busy to notice, that Chloe was too young to speak, and that my money would belong to you once I worked myself into an early grave. Ethan flinched as if slapped. The district attorney's office accepted our criminal referral this morning. I continued, taking a step back as two campus security officers approached. Felony grand larceny. Indictment warrants will be issued on Monday. Summer. No. You can't put the father of your child in prison. Ethan screamed, as the security officers stepped between us, pinning his arms behind his back. Chloe will hate you for this. Chloe already knows who you are, I said, turning my back on him. And she will never look at you again. 2 weeks later, the results of the Massachusetts State Invitational Math Olympiad were published. First place, individual category Chloe Vance score, 98/100, qualified for the National Mathematics Olympiad team. When Mrs. Collins, the high school guidance counselor, called me with the news, she was crying with joy over the phone. Mrs. Vance, it's the highest score from our district in 12 years. The headmaster wants to hold a special assembly to present her award. That Friday, the school auditorium was filled with 800 students and faculty members. Chloe stood on the stage under the bright stage lights, holding the gold trophy, wearing a tailored school blazer that fit her perfectly. When the principal handed her the microphone, Chloe looked across the sea of students and locked eyes with me, sitting in the front row. A few months ago, Chloe spoke into the microphone, her voice steady, clear, and resonant. I thought I wasn't good enough. I thought my dreams were a burden on the people around me. I was told that being smart was unnecessary for a girl, and that asking for what I needed was selfish. The auditorium went dead silent. But my mother came back, Chloe continued, a bright, beautiful smile spreading across her face as tears glistened in her eyes. She taught me that the truth cannot be stolen, and that a mother's love is not a check that can be intercepted. This trophy belongs to her. The entire auditorium erupted into thunderous applause. I sat in the front row, clapping with all my heart, feeling the warm tears roll down my cheeks. The shadow of my past life was finally completely shattered. 1 month later, Norfolk County Superior Court. The criminal trial of Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Ethan Vance and Rachel Cole concluded in less than 3 hours. Faced with certified banking forensics, forged consulting contracts, and recorded voice memos provided by Amanda's investigation, the defendants had zero room for defense. The judge slammed her gavel onto the wooden block with a sharp, resounding crack. On the charges of grand larceny over $250,000, custodial fiduciary fraud, and conspiracy to commit tax evasion, defendant Ethan Vance is sentenced to 7 to 10 years at MCI Cedar Junction, with mandatory restitution of $480,000 to the Chloe Vance Irrevocable Trust. Defendant Rachel Cole is sentenced to 5 to 7 years at MCI Framingham, with immediate revocation of all professional counseling licenses and full civil asset forfeiture of her Dorchester properties. As the bailiff stepped forward to lock the heavy steel handcuffs around Ethan's wrists, he turned his head frantically toward the gallery, looking for his mother, his sister, his friends. The benches behind him were completely empty. Not a single member of the Vance family had shown up. Rachel sat at the defense table, weeping uncontrollably, her head buried in her hands, her designer lifestyle reduced to an orange prison jumpsuit. I stood up from the plaintiff's bench, buttoned my navy wool coat, and walked out of the courtroom into the crisp winter air. Spring in Boston arrived with blooming magnolias along Commonwealth Avenue. I stepped out of Massachusetts General Hospital, holding a clean envelope containing my comprehensive oncology screening report. Clinical diagnosis: all biomarkers normal. 0 cellular atypia. Thyroid and gastric mucosa healthy. Because I had caught the physical exhaustion early, adjusted my diet, stopped traveling internationally, and eliminated the toxic stress from my life, the cancer that had killed me in my past life had been prevented entirely. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from my CEO in New York. Summer. His voice boomed with warmth. The board unanimously approved your promotion to Senior Vice President of North American Commercial Operations. You will be heading the entire Northeast Division out of our Boston corporate office. No more international red ice. Full executive autonomy. Thank you, David. I smiled, looking up at the clear blue sky. I accept. At 3 in the afternoon, I walked across the public garden toward West Side High School. The school gates opened, and a crowd of laughing, chattering teenagers poured out onto the sidewalk. Chloe spotted me immediately. She was wearing her new spring jacket, her gold Olympiad pin gleaming on her lapel, carrying her leather backpack with light, confident steps. "Mom," she called out, running across the crosswalk with a bright, untroubled smile. "How was the calculus seminar, champion?" I asked, taking her backpack and draping my arm over her shoulders. "The professor from Harvard gave us a challenge problem at the end." Chloe grinned proudly, pulling a folded sheet of paper from her pocket. "Everyone else gave up after 20 minutes. I solved it in 12. "That's my girl." I laughed softly, kissing the crown of her head. "What do you want for dinner tonight? Glazed salmon or homemade pasta?" "Homemade pasta," Chloe answered, linking her arm with mine. "As long as we cook it together." We walked side by side down the sunlit streets of Boston, our shadows stretching long and peaceful across the cobblestones. The cold hospital ward, the dry throat, the stolen money, and the bitter tears were gone forever. In their place was a life of light, strength, and an unbreakable love that would guide us for the rest of our days.